All right, good evening. Welcome to another Trinity Security Allies webinar. Uh, we were going to do a webinar on situational awareness, and all of a sudden, I started getting a bunch of emails and text messages in reference to a situation that happened in Grace Baptist Church or in Troy, New York. And so there were a lot of questions about this because for those of you that have not seen, please go out and look at the videos. This is Grace Baptist Church in Troy, New York. Now, what had happened, it's kind of funny because when we were looking at the churches, these churches had been in our kind of like view at other. There's two churches we want to talk about tonight, and one of them is Grace Baptist Church in Troy, New York, and the other one is Celebration Church in Austin, Texas. Now, you know, this is just a sign of the times. I mean, these are things that we're seeing out here that we need to start paying attention to it. And I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, and it appears more and more that we're having all these different things that are going on that we just need to be paying attention to what is happening in our neighborhoods, what is happening socially, the different things that we've been seeing, the protesters, the riots, all these different things like that. And so because of what is going on, we just have to be careful with what we're putting out there. And when I say this, I want to make sure that we're perfectly clear on this. And we're going to talk about this with Grace Baptist Church. I I want you to understand that we still preach the gospel. That's number one. We don't change that. We still preach the gospel. But a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the Church of the Highlands on a Sunday night Facebook Live, and I'm not going to talk about them that much except for right now. And what that was, Church of the Highlands in Birmingham, Alabama, lost their lease over a senior pastor's social media activity. Now, it's absurd that this would happen, but this is what we're running into, and this is what we're seeing. And these are things that we need to be paying attention because, unfortunately, I mean, this church was leasing property at two schools, and the pastor was liking some of the Donald Trump's tweets, some conservative tweets, different things like that. And a person started to follow him and noticed that what he was supporting. And then the next thing you know, this person went to the school board and said, hey, these people should not be in your church. And the school board agreed and took their leases away for these schools. Now, this is a 60,000 member church. They have multiple locations, but two of their locations were at two different schools. Now, it was a multicultural church. It was not a church that was in predominant white or predominant black neighborhoods, but it was very multicultural. And so this is just what we have to be watching out for. But this week, I get a text and it had a link on it, and it said protester storm Baptist church, harass children, assault parishioners. So of course, looking at this was the Grace Baptist Church. Now, who showed up on the doorstep was Black Lives Matters. Not going to get into it. I mean, we can talk about that at another date, another time. But I just want you to understand that this is evil. This is not protesters, people who go out and want to protest something and are peaceful about it. These people want to spread hate, want to hurt people, want to attack people. You have to be careful when these people show up at church, if these people show up at your church. Now, when I started looking at Grace Baptist Church, I went out and did my research on it, and I remembered that they had given away a free AR-15 like a week or so before this, and they were under a lot of pressure during that time. Do I think that's appropriate? We have a turkey shoot and we give away a gun at our turkey shoot. We are in ministry, and I guess you could say, well, Jim, you do the same thing, but it's kind of one of these things where I kind of question whether or not we've never given away an assault rifle. I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, I really don't. That would be something that, I would be more than welcome to listen to anybody that wants to talk to us about it. But we do have our turkey shoot every year, and it helps raise money for the ministry. And so, we always give away a gun. We raffle a gun away. And so, these are the type of things that was in my, I'd already heard about this church and already looked at this church, but I didn't realize that it was going to get even worse. Now, when I looked at Grace Baptist Church, I also remembered that back in September of 2018, LGBT and Antifa demanded church leave over sexuality. Now, we'll talk about that church in a minute, but it was the same. It's two different churches and two different things here. And I think we really need to pay attention to what brought what on, and just kind of have that conversation. So when I went to their Facebook page. This is Grace. We're going to talk about Grace Baptist Church here right now. When I went to their Facebook page, I noticed they had a 1.7 out of 5 rating on their Facebook. And I was like, oh my gosh, let me take a look at what's going on here. Now, there's a lot of people out there that feel that they're racist, feel that they're, homophobic, all the different things that you could think of. And one of the things that just kind of concerned me about this was that I needed to I don't want to point a finger at a church until I hear from the church. So I decided to kind of capture one of the URLs that showed me one of their podcasts. It was a sermon. It's now a podcast. It's not in video, but it's a podcast. And so I wanted to take a look at this because the title really caught me. The title caught me. Now, I kind of want to talk a little bit about, this is the images that we were seeing from Grace Baptist Church. I kind of grabbed one real quick. But one of the things that bothers me about this, and this is what we're going to get into, the safety of our church. I want you to look at this picture for a little bit. These people out here are Black Lives Matter. This guy right here, another one of the Black Lives Matter. This is one of the church members. This lady is trying to get to church, bringing her 3 children along, and they start to go after them. They start yelling at them. They scare the little ones to death. We'll talk about that in a minute, but this is one of these things that this was handled terribly wrong here as far as allowing these people to get that close to the people that were coming into the church. So we have to be really careful when we see things like this. We cannot not allow this to happen. And we'll talk about that as far as what we would do in case of a situation arose at your church. Now, I go out and I look at Grace Baptist Church's preaching, and this is what I come across. And this is where it concerns me a little bit. Back in February, they did a whole series on the blacks are cursed, the Jews are cursed, the Greeks are cursed. That's got my attention because I really want to hear what's going on here. Now, I'm trying to find the most politically correct way of saying this, because the sermon should have been, all of us are cursed. It's just like we turn and look at Black Lives Matters and say all life matters, but yet if we say that we disagree with Black Lives Matters, then of course this is what happens. You have people show up at your church and want to protest. Now, I understand that the reason why this protest happened at Grace Baptist Church had nothing to do with the February sermons. It had nothing to do with the February sermons, but it had to do with the pastor talking about the people down at Black Lives Matters were terrible people, sinners, all these different things like that. And so this is why the protest showed up at their doorstep. Now, I just have a hard time when I go out and read your sermon that says blacks are cursed, Jews are cursed, Greeks are cursed. Now, if I just saw this and didn't hear or listen to the sermon, I probably would never put my foot inside this door here. I just think that we're just pushing the issue just a little bit, pushing the envelope. And when we talk about the teachings of Christ, I don't know that Christ would have said this right here. Christ would have said all man is cursed. And when you listen to the sermon, that's basically what the pastor is saying. He goes into the Old Testament and he gives like a historical view of what he says where blacks came from. And he talks about Jonah, and he talks about, not Jonah, I'm sorry, Noah, and how one of his sons is cursed when Noah grows grapes, and the next thing you know, has too much to drink, passes out, he's in the nude. The son comes over and makes fun of him, mocks him, and then the next thing you know, he's cursed and sent out. So he says right there that because of that story, that blacks are cursed. When Christ came, Christ said everybody was basically cursed. If we really want to be realistic about this, those that do not believe in him will not have everlasting life. That to me means everybody. I don't know that why we have to go down and we have to put it like this. Now, the pastor made the comment that when he did the February 10th sermon on Greeks are cursed, he said the Greeks didn't show up the next week. And when he did the February 17th sermon, of Jews are cursed, then the Jews didn't come back that next week. I didn't really hear anything wrong with his sermon. He was very, very fundamental. And what I mean by fundamental is he pointed out things that you can find in the New Testament, but you can say it in a different way. The Bible verse of the day for me, which was just really appropriate for what we were getting ready to talk here, it says Hebrews 12:14, make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see God. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone. This is kind of throwing a stone here that I think you're going to get, probably somebody's going to throw one back at you. And I think that, a little bit of this, like I said, if you listen to the sermon, you can agree on what he says, but I don't like the way it's said. I can tell you right now that our church would never have something like this out there. They would probably say we are all cursed, or come in and learn how man has fallen, and we need to make sure that, people are taken care. You know what I'm saying? It's just that when he posts this right here, it really started to fuel some of the fire. Then when they gave away the AR-15, it added more. And then when the pastor said something about Black Lives Matters, it just added it even more. I think you can talk about any of the people who are rioting, not the protesters. We have a right in this country to have peaceful protest. That is one of our rights as an American living in this country. But yet when they start to destroy property, of course, we now know that this is not a right. This is not something that is not against the law. This is against the law. You can't be doing it. So I don't know why. And like I said, this happened back in February of 2019, over a year ago. But when you go to his website, when you look at their Facebook and see their ratings, you can see why it started to fuel the fire. Now, the pastor in this church is not going to back down. Okay, fine. I have no problem at all. But what you have to be concerned about, because if we go back to the picture above, if we go back to that picture, we have to be a little bit concerned here, because you're putting children and ladies right in the middle of this. And this is something that concerns me. This is where it bothers me. Please understand, I'm not talking of not preaching the word. I say that we preach the word, but we make sure in there that we show love and grace while we're doing it. We need to be the most friendliest church out here, but we preach God's teachings. We preach Christ's teachings. And this is where we're going to get into our second church. Because when we look at this church right here, now we're going to take a look at another church, Celebrate Church. Now, what happened with Celebrate Church is that on their website, they put that they believed in the biblical teachings that marriage should be between a man and a woman. I don't see anything wrong with that. But what happened was that it got out that they were renting a space. They were renting a performing arts center to bring all their churches together because they have multiple churches out there. It's a very large congregation. They were renting a space, and LBGT and Antifa decided that they were going to protest against what they were teaching. Now, if you continued on their website and looked at the rest of it, it said, we want everybody to come to church. We invite everybody. We don't just, we don't look at race, sex, your sexual orientation or anything like that. We want you to come to our church. We want you to come in. We invite you in because they want to show Christ's love. But yet on their on their website, where they had put that they believed in the biblical teachings that marriage should be between a man and a woman, the next thing you know, they're standing outside their door rioting. Now, they weren't as destructive. There is video out there on it. They just kind of marched up and down. The police got there fairly quickly and started to help out. But this is kind of what we're going to get into next, is talking about what we should do in case something like this happens. Now, I will tell you, and I wish I could show the videos from the New York church, from Grace Baptist Church, because I really think that they just did it completely wrong. Now, they had officers inside their church when the Black Lives Matters came into their church. Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it. Get your members of the church out of the way. Don't put them in harm's way, because what they did is they basically made a line and was almost challenging those that wanted to stand outside and protest. Now, when local law enforcement got there, they pushed them off the property. They pushed them to where they were on the street. So what I wanted to show was our piece of property here, and show you that if somebody steps on your property, they're trespassing if you don't want them there. So get local law enforcement there as soon as you possibly can. I would suggest that you lock the doors and you might have a spokesperson, one person step outside so it does not look like what we see in the Grace Baptist Church, because they formed the line and all it was doing was fueling the fire again. But what you want to do is get your people inside and make sure that they are safe. And I would lock the doors. I'm sorry, I would, because we want to keep them outside. If you start to see them, look, they're very easy to see. I mean, when we go back to the picture here, they're real easy to see when you look at them. They all have the face mask on. They had Black Lives Matter signs, all these different things like this. When they start piling out of a car, and I know that we have the COVID-19 going on right now, but they're all dressed in black and looking very menacing when they show up with megaphones and stuff like that, you need to be shutting your doors and locking the doors and not letting them in. Now, when we go back to this again, this is what I kind of want you to understand. We have local law enforcement that directs our traffic up here. We would have them immediately come back to the church. We would have them tell them that they need to leave the property or they will be arrested and we will prosecute. I know that they're going to be calling for backup and they're going to be calling for help. So when the troops arrive, then we're going to drive them out and off the property. And they're not going to be able to stand in the street. They probably would have to go across the street where you see here is a sidewalk to do their protest. Or they could come over here and do their protest. But whichever way they went, whether it be this entrance, hang on one sec. Whether it be this entrance right here or this entrance right here, I would direct my church traffic into the other entrance. Now, if you don't have two entrances, you're kind of stuck, get the police there. Please do. If we go back and look at Grace Baptist Church, it's a small church. It's very difficult to do something. But I tell you what I would have done. I would have sent somebody out the back door and got down the street and start stopping those. Quit being arrogant. Protect those children. Protect that lady. I would have had somebody go down the street and tell them not to come into the church. If you watch the video, you see some people coming to the church and see what's going on. And as they try to escort them into the church, they say, no, we're leaving, and turn around and leave. So because of us having the capability of having two different entrances, we even have a third one that's up here if we were to go up here. But I would direct my traffic. I would get my safety team members out here away from the crowd that's protesting and get them, if it was this location that was open, get them to bring people in, send them to this area over here to park, and have them come in another door like this one over here instead of putting them in harm's way if they were in any of the other areas. You got to start planning for this. You got to look at your property. You got to have an idea of what you're going to do in case something like this happens. Because really, we've now seen it at 2 churches, and I'm for sure there's going to be more. I'm for sure that there's going to be more. So we need to be prepared for this, and we need to start talking about this. And we're going to get deeper into it when we have some of our church safety networking meetings, again, because we really want to make sure that we cover this, because this could become an issue. It's just the way the world is right now. We're living in a sinful world. We have fallen. We have truly fallen in certain places, and we as a church need to start standing up and making sure that we protect those that come into the church. We need to make sure that we're watching out for things like this. We need to be on our Facebook page paying attention to what's happening in Facebook, because the thing that we have to be really careful with is that if we start seeing people going out there and really giving us low ratings and saying things like our church is racist and our church is this and our church is that, we need to take a hard look at this. We need to make sure that we're paying attention. But this is just a brief overview of what I know that we're planning on doing, and making sure that we're going to have a plan, put a plan into place. I'll be more than happy to talk with anybody. I'll pull up your church property, look at it from Google Earth, take a look at it, and tell you what I would recommend. If you only have one entrance and exit, then I would pull everybody inside the church. If you had some sort of way of getting out to your people, like we use Facebook Messenger and all these different things like this, your people coming to church or members, I would send something out as quickly as possible and tell them not to come to the church. There's no reason to put them in harm's way right now, especially as volatile as some of these actions have been. Go watch the videos on Grace Baptist Church. Multiple people are attacked because Black Lives Matters. If you get in the middle of them, they're going to take a shot. You have to understand that. So your best bet is to stay out of harm's way instead of getting in the middle of it and trying to acting like you're leave your ego at the door, folks. You don't listen, that lady could have easily been hurt with her children if one of the guys would have done something that got them started. And fortunately, nobody was started. Nobody was started. Nobody got anything started when the lady was walking through. Nobody got hurt. But afterwards, there was physical confrontation. There were fights. It wasn't until the police got there and was able to move them out into the street that the altercation stopped. But you have to be careful. You should never let them inside your church. They pull into your church parking lot and start coming out of cars. They don't bring 100 cars. They come in a group. When they start getting out of the car and start heading toward the church, lock your doors. Don't let them in. Do not let them in. Get on the phone, dial 911, and get local law enforcement up there as quickly as possible. You have to make sure that you're protecting your church. You have to make sure that you're protecting those inside. This is a scary event that happened up here in Grace Baptist Church, but I'm just saying this because I'm talking Christ here. I don't understand the reason why we want to be edgy. I don't understand the reason why we want to cause some of these issues. Now, dude, please, don't take this the wrong way. Stand up for our churches. Stand up for our religious freedoms. You've seen my post. I say these things, but what you have to understand is I'm saying these things. I'm the one that is putting this out. Wendy stands right beside me. But if I thought that my children were in danger or anything like that, local police department would be here helping me out all the time. They just would be. I would have their number on speed dial. We just have to be careful when we put these things into play. We have to make sure that we show the love of Christ. I had a church one time that contacted me, and they talked about they had people that came up and was protesting because they were pro-choice. They were pro-life. Pardon me. A pro-choice group showed up outside in there, right out on the sidewalk of their church because they were told they could not come on the church property. But outside on the church, outside of the church property, they walked up and down with signs and was protesting and going back and forth and talking about their stuff. You know what that church did? They went to their kitchen, made pancakes for them, took it out to them. They brought them waters because it was hot. They did things like that. They showed them Christ's love. Did they stop believing in pro-life? No. It didn't change their thought process at all in that regards. But instead of forming a wall where a bunch of guys are standing there all puffed up, ready to fight, showing that this is the way your church is going to be, that church is going to have more problems. That church is going to have more problems. And I just worry about that because the next thing that happens could be people shooting at that church and injuring some of those children that we saw in those videos. We need to be careful here. We need to be careful. We need to make sure that we're paying attention to everything that's going on around us, the temperature in the areas. To get up, I just don't think we should be poking bears. I think that we should be preaching Christ's love, but we stand strong on that. And we do continue to teach what our beliefs are. We do talk about on our website that we are pro-life. We do talk about that it is a biblical teaching that marriage should be between a man and a woman. We continue those teachings, but we just do it with Christ's love and the way that he did when he met every single person in the gospel. You didn't see him turn to the woman at the well and talk about he gave her grace. He talked to her like we should be talking, with love. Was he very staunch on his stance of it? Yes. Go and sin no more. He told her, don't do this anymore. And this is what we need to be doing, is showing Christ's love, but protecting the church at the same time. So, Wendy, we got any questions out there?
We do. We had one comment from John Perone. There was a report that was the third time in over several years that that church had raffled off a firearm. That was just a comment. We have somebody that is asking, during Sheepdog Coffee a couple weeks ago, I asked if any churches were using body cameras. No one indicated that they did, but Jim suggested using my phone, which would be very unhandy in a serious event. I am still considering buying one. Can Jim suggest one that won't be too costly or an additional viewpoint? I will accept the responsibility for my actions. I just want to make sure what I see is recorded.
Well, I'm going to turn on the camera here for a second. I'm going to come out of the share here for a second. I need you. All right. I need you to. All right. Anyway, might be a little difficult to see. I think that your cell phone works really well, and I recommend that you use the cell phone. And it was funny because I got a call from a church from Tampa. When we do our networking, we also talk about people of interest inside the area. And we talked about a woman that came in and wanted money. And when she didn't get money, she caused a disruption in the church. And so they immediately pulled out their phones and started videotaping her and taking pictures. Now, I've used this on multiple occasions and it works really well. What I normally do is I take my phone and it was funny because my old Droid phone, you would shake it twice. You'd shake it like this and it would cause the camera to come on. Well, my down volume button now turns my camera on. And so what I would do would be turn on the video and I would take it and I would stick it in my pocket so that I could record. You can kind of like see it right there. I could record when the person is standing there right in front of me, doesn't even know it. And it works just as well. Plus it picks up the audio. If you want to buy body cams, I can't tell you anything about them. That's kind of the new stuff for police departments. I know that Taser makes one, but they're really expensive. And I just, like I said, the cell phone's right there. You always got it with you. Plus, I would say also, I think you might antagonize somebody if you were standing there with a body cam telling them that you're recording, or they ask you if you're recording, where if you put this in your pocket, you can stand there and record. And I would check your local laws, your state laws on video recording. I know we use it all the time. I mean, that's what the police departments are doing. That's what everybody does when they film a police officer, is to use their phone. So it's right there with you. You have it all the time. You don't have to worry about charging it because you've already got it charged. All these different things like that. I would say that really that's your best tool to use. That's just my personal opinion, and kind of my professional opinion. I've used it multiple times. It works great in the shirt, in the shirt pocket. It really does. You can turn it to where you're facing the person and talking to them, and you get everything. I got license tags. I mean, I've used it multiple times to show people when we've had situations of where something we really wanted to take a look at later on and make sure that we were paying attention to it. Next.
The next one is from James Shoemaker. I'm now reading, it's just a comment. I'm now reading the book, The Third Option, Hope for a Radically Divided Nation. By what he has read so far, he highly recommends that. Jeff Griffin has sent a link. Jeff, can you tell me what that link is for? He also says, thank you for doing the research on the website. Is it aliexpress.com? Oh, it's for body cams. So I'll copy and paste that, and I'll put that out on our Facebook page. Actually, Jeff, can you, I'm not able to grab it. Can you send me, can you email me that link, and I'll put it out on our Facebook page?
Wendy, tell him to put it in our chat, because we'll grab it off the chat.
Okay, Jeff, actually, he probably heard you. He already heard you.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
All right. Actually, Jeff, if you want to go ahead and throw it over into the chat box, we can share it with everybody from there. And then if you email it, I can also throw it out on our website. And then I think that is there any other questions? Okay, Jeff, if everybody wants to grab that, he has put it in the chat box for everybody. And then I'm looking, I don't see any other questions. So we'll give everybody a second to grab that. Oh, it's to panelists only. Okay, so we need to.
All right, I'm grabbing it right now.
All right, Jim's going to grab it. Thanks, John, for letting me know. Right, are there any other questions? You guys have our email address if you need Jim to go over any plans for your church. He's more than happy to help with that. I don't see anything else there. And Jim, you were able to share that?
Let me see something here. No, I don't know why people couldn't pick that up. But anyway, we'll figure it out. We've got a copy of it. We'll put it out there. There's another Q&A.
Yeah, let me grab that. And there's also a comment over in the chat box that you should look at. Oh, the phone won't fit. The phone wouldn't fit in my jacket pocket with a protective case.
I don't know what to say there. Your phone's too big, You're carrying around a television now. So, I mean, if that's the issue, then I guess we'll look at the Alien Express or Allied Express, and you can look at something like that. Like I said, it's always there with you. I mean, I'm just saying that the reason why I put it in my pocket is that the person doesn't really realize it, and it's not confrontational. If you could stand there and hold it in your hand if it becomes something that is, you feel like it's needed. I don't blame you for just turning it on and saying, hey, I'm going to record this, and just tell them. That might calm them down. You don't know, or it may make them matter. But like I said, the reason why I do it is I'm just, here's the example I'll give you. We had a guy that was out on our property, and this was right after the shooting that just happened in the White Settlement West Freeway Church of Christ. And I showed up and said, you know, I show up at the church, and there's a guy out on our 29 acre out in the North 40, and he's got a crossbow. And so I went out there and kind of turned my phone on and put it in my pocket and walked out and said, went out there with another. We didn't know it was a crossbow to begin with. We just saw him out there. A lot of times they fish out by the lake. And when I got out there, he tells me he's pulling out his crossbow to sight it in on a target. And I was like, you got to be putting me on. This is Sunday morning. We have church going on here. I don't think people, first off, it's private property. And I don't think people would be happy with you firing off a crossbow here on the church property. And he was kind of like, well, I don't know why. But I videotaped it and was able to get his license tag. So I'm not standing there writing it down, not being confrontational with him. I invited him to church. And the other safety team member that was with me said, yeah, but don't bring your crossbow. It's a funny story. But like I said, I do it like that because it's always with me. I don't have to have another. I got a radio on, gun on, and all these other things. Now I'm going to add a camera to it. I'm going to use my phone. It's just that easy. And plus I download it and it's mine. And most of the time they work. So anyway, that's just my opinion.
Spencer mentioned that there's lanyards that phones fit in with a clear case. And then Simon is on. Hi, Simon. He agrees with you. It's very common for people to record on their phones. It's the first thing that protesters do.
Hey, you get pulled over by a a police officer now, that's the first thing that they reach for is their phones to videotape, what happens. I mean, everybody does it. I mean, that's, like I said, I would use that. Oh, and who was it that asked the question? I am for sure that you probably have one of your old cell phones that would probably fit in your pocket that you can use as a camera. It doesn't have to have cellular connection to be used as a camera. I have friends of mine that set up podcasts. My good buddy Kevin Haggerty doesn't buy a camera. He uses all old cell phones and does his podcast using old cell phones. So, I know you probably have one that's smaller. They take great pictures. So you could just carry that around in your pocket instead of going out and buying something, spending some money on something. Anybody else?
Simon wanted to remind you that your testimony is actually going to be on tonight at 8:00 Central Time. He's posting it. It's on the FSBN site. I did see it go out there. I've also asked him to put it in the Church Safety Network, and so I can grab it and put it on Trinity Security Allies. And I think that is all that I see. Simon, thank you so much for doing that.
Simon, thanks a lot, brother. I know that we'll be talking soon.
Oh, Ron George, audio would be recorded with the video. Yeah, with the phones. Absolutely.
Yeah, listen, you have to make sure that it is audio and video. In the state of Florida, you cannot record somebody just audio. That's a big no-no around here. But if you use video, it's a different animal. So yes, make sure that it's audio and video.
All right, I think that's it.
All right. I want to close up here. Go out and look at our blog. It is where we talk about we need to be supporting our police officers, our law enforcement. It's out there on our webpage, trinitysecurityallies.com. It's under blog. Churches need to make a stand and support the badge. I have to tell you God's story real quick. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. I did my Facebook Live 2 weeks ago on this, that we need to make sure that we support our law enforcement. So I told you, and this is what I'm going to tell you also, is that anytime you see somebody, any law enforcement at all, you go up to them and you tell them thank you for what they are doing, because it is a hard job. It really is, and especially in these trying times. But go up to them and tell them you appreciate for what they do, and ask them if you can pray for them. Now, after I got finished on Sunday night, I was thinking to myself, Mondays I'm in the office all day long because I'm writing and working on my small men's group that I facilitate. And so I was thinking to myself, gosh, I want to be able to put this into play. I really wanted to go out and do this. If I challenge you to do something, I'm going to do the same thing. So I get up on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays and run at 6:00 in the morning. And I get up with my running buddy and I said, what we have different routes marked out. And I said, what 4-mile route do you want to do today? And he looked at me and said, well, we haven't done the fingers in a long time. It's a certain area that is like 1.25 miles inside this little area of these little fingers, residential streets, dead end streets. And I can't even tell you when the last time that we did it. So we went out and started running. I mean, it's one of those that we don't do a lot, and I don't even remember where we start or where we stop. So I was following him, and we turned the corner and went into these fingers, and there was sitting a Pasco County deputy car. And I also noticed that there was a police forensic van there. And so I already knew what had happened. I knew what had happened. It was just one car, and she was walking toward another vehicle, and the owner was standing outside. So as we ran past the deputy that was sitting there, I stopped. He had his window down. He'd already noticed us and waved to us, and I stopped. And so I asked him, I said, can I ask you one question? And he said, sure. I said, was the vehicle unlocked? Well, that's police lingo. If you don't know that, we call them vehicles. We don't call them cars. And we don't look at a police officer and say, what's going on? We kind of already figured that out. And what had happened was there was a vehicle burglary. Somebody had went into his car. So I said, was the vehicle unlocked? Because if we could train people to lock their doors, we would knock out 50% of our crimes in the country as far as as far as property crimes. And he laughed at me and said, yes. And we kind of talked for a couple of seconds. And I looked at him and I said, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate what you're doing. And is there anything I can pray for you today? And his response shook me. He said that I make it home tonight, that I make it home safe. And I was like, wow. This is what our law enforcement is thinking about when they go to work in the morning, that they make it home that night. So please, 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 if you can. I mean, that was a God moment for me because I didn't think I'd be able to see anybody. And yes, I know 10 cars got broken into so I could have a God moment. Please don't write me nasty notes. Lock your car doors. But it's just one of these things where we just need to make sure that we support the badge and support these guys that are out here, because they're doing a hard job. And if you don't believe me, see if you can do a ride along, because you'll see something completely different and you'll have a deeper appreciation for what they do every day. So next Wednesday, we're really excited about this. Thursday, Wendy and I and the girls are heading to Texas. But next Wednesday, July 15th at 8:00 p.m., we are going to have Julie Workman on. Now, Julie Workman, if you had an opportunity to come to our conference, is a survivor from Sutherland Springs shooting. Her son, Chris, was shot and paralyzed from the waist down. That's why we're going out there. They're having a fund drive for him to help raise money to build a house for him. And so we're going to have her on to talk about recovery. We may briefly talk about the incident that happened, but we're going to talk about recovery, because we have to understand that after a shooting happens, there's stuff that you have to know and stuff that you have to start doing to be able to recover from a tragedy that happened like theirs. All right. Sunday nights, we are going to still try to do these even when we're in Texas. I'm going to take my phone, remember phone, turn on the camera, and try to do the Facebook Lives there. We'll tell you what's going on. We'll tell you what's happening. And we're doing a lot. We have a lot of resources out there. Go to our webpage. We have free stuff on YouTube now. We also have our membership where we're starting to put these trainings. Now, this one right here, I'm probably going to talk Wendy into putting this on our free side, because I really think that this is just something that needs to be out there that everybody can see it. Like I said, this needs to be discussed more This is just an overview of what we would talk about in case somebody came to your church. This is one that we really need to be looking at your property and be working on, setting up a plan to make sure everybody is safe. God Logic Project, go there because there's a couple of videos where I talk with Kevin Haggerty about things that we have seen. We've been out there talking about the George Floyd case. We've been out there talking about the Aubrey case. We've had a lot of discussion out there on things that we're seeing across the country. So go out there, like us, please subscribe to us, and help us out on this. We still have our free resources out there. We're going to be putting another one out here real soon. I got to talk to Wendy about which one that's going to be, but we have another book that we're going to be putting out there. These are free to download. They're PDFs. They're really easy to read. They're not difficult. Trust me. I don't like a lot of stuff when I have to read about things like this. Anyway, ways to support us: prayers, membership, churches, 125. Our online membership program. Wendy has extended this probably till the end of July, but it is $25 a month. Right now, it's $20 a month, and we're going to have weekly online training and access to video training library and one ticket to the church safety conference. We're getting geared up for that. We're going to have a lot of things going on this year. We're going to try to have some more vendors that are going to have items that you probably would like to see and have. We also have training that if you contact us, we'll come and do training. There is a fee, and we also take donations, and we really appreciate it. Listen, I can't say this enough. Times are really a little scary out there. I talk to friends of mine that are in the gun business, and they can't keep guns in their stores. They can't keep ammunition. It's all sold out. So it just tells me the temperature that's going on out here in the climate, and we have to be careful. If you carry a concealed weapon, you should not be carrying it without some sort of protection. And this is what we recommend. We're an affiliate of theirs. They take really good care of us if you join. And so if you go to our website and look for the firearms, we don't call it insurance, protection plan, I believe. But if you look at it, you can click on it, USCCA. They send you magazines. They have incredible training. They have giveaways all the time. It's really a good organization to be a part of. They don't just think of you as a number. I'm telling you, they talk to me every single time. I have a personal guy that calls me or contacts me at least once a month. In fact, Max has been on a couple of our webinars, and if he's out there, Max, is great to have you back again. But USCCA, if you're out here carrying, I want to thank you so much for coming out. I know we want to get back into the church. I really do. And I know soon that we are going to get back into the church. And when we do that, we want to make sure that we have looked at our safety plans, and we want to make sure that we may have changed some of them because of the situations that we've run into now. You know, at one time, we really didn't see a lot of protests around church, but now we've started to see this uptick. So because of that, I think it's very wise of you to put something into play of what you would do. And once we get finished with putting ours all together, I'm going to post it out here for you so that you can see what it is. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. If you have any questions, just contact us. You have our emails, and you have our Facebook page where you can contact us. Thank you. Just be safe out there and be blessed. It's Jim Howard, Wendy Howard with Trinity Security Allies. Have a great night, and we'll